The ISU topic I am going to present today is Women Pay Equity and the Law. So, have you ever wondered why women and men were treated differently under several circumstances? So, what is pay equity? Pay equity is generally equal pay for equal work, more focusing on women who get paid less than men. This has been established through the Employment Equity Act. Let's start with the history of women's pay equity. The history of women's pay equity began when women received the right to work. Before that, many women were normally stay-at-home mothers who did not go to school or work, but mainly worked for their husbands at home and provided physiological needs for both their husbands and children. Originally, the history of women's pay equity began with Rosalie Abella. She was a female judge who believed in the term equal pay for equal work should apply to both women and men. However, no matter how much she advocated, not much was done to bring female justice in the workplace. If women were not a part of a stable union, they did not receive the same rights as men, meaning whether they completed this exact same work as the male individual beside them, their wages were less than the opposite gender. This went on for many years and still goes on today. The gender wage gap still exists, which pays women 26 cents less than men. Let's move on to the Charter and how this helps women's pay equity. The Charter of Rights allows individuals to receive fundamental rights and freedoms and protects people from the government's actions relating to the law. It has influenced the equality of women and men in many different ways, one of which include the gender pay equity. Specifically, under Section 15(1) states every individual is equal under the law and every individual is in fact protected against discrimination based on sex, age, religion, etc. Individuals in the government who propose rules that discriminate against others who withhold certain advantage in specific fields have been unable to participate fully in society. The law, however, contradicts the Charter on allowing both men and women to receive equal pay for certain reasons, such as the difference in certain job fields. Women are unable to receive the same pay as men for certain jobs due to the different positions they acquire. Next up is legislation. The Ontario Pay Equity Act was passed in 1987 and initiates that employers provide equal pay for all employees in female job classes. It also states individuals doing the same work are entitled to same pay regardless of their gender or disability, which are main factors individuals receive discrimination. Work that requires the same skill, effort, and responsibility should provide employees with the same amount of pay. However, some companies have the seniority system and merit system. The seniority system is based on a worker who has been with the company for longer and holds higher knowledge along with experience on the job. Therefore, they will receive more pay than a newly employed worker. Also, the merit system, which states employees who receive a bonus due to certain factors are entitled to more pay than their coworkers. Overall, the importance of this law is to protect individuals who show a different skin color, physical ability, sexual orientation from any type of discrimination on the job when it comes to wage. Let's move on to cases. The first case I came across was the Canadian female postal workers in Ottawa. Employers were guilty of paying the female workers a lower wage simply because they were women. The Public Service Alliance of Canada and the Canadian Human Rights Commission filed a complaint in 1983 and were denied multiple times by the Federal Court of Appeal along with the federal court. In both 2008 and 2010, before the case was presented to the Supreme Court, by 2002, the settlement set an amount in wage increase which later eliminated the gender wage gap in the clerical work occupation. One of the employees affected by the discrimination stated that the number of employees quit during the endless wait they faced to finally be given a result. In conclusion, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal awarded the Canada Post female workers $150 million. The second case was during January between the Canadian Human Rights Commission and Canadian Airlines International. It was reported that Air Canada was discriminating against flight attendants who dominated in female workers by paying them different wages for work of equal value to the male-dominant professions. In contrary, Air Canada officials argued that flight attendants and work such as mechanical personnel and pilots should not be recognized as work of equal value. Therefore, the court took this statement into account and decided to conduct an investigation. However, the company denied any investigation. Later on in 1988, the Human Rights Commissioners took this case to the Federal Court of Appeal, which unfortunately turned down their requests, defending Air Canada by stating that the female-dominant professions could not be found under the same establishment. However, the case was brought to the Supreme Court of Canada, which believed an investigation was required. Therefore, they granted the Canadian Human Rights Commissioners to proceed. After the investigation, the Supreme Court concluded that pilots, mechanics, and flight attendants did in fact fall under the same establishment and required common wages, causing the appeal to be dismissed. Now on to political spectrum. In the political spectrum, it is reviewed that the left side, the NDPs, would be highly supportive of the Pay Equity Act due to their morals and that every individual is equal under the law. However, the right side, the Conservatives, would be highly against paying women equal value of work because of their Christian beliefs, and also they are against the idea of spending money, leaving them unconcerned about the gender wage gap. Overall, in my opinion, I think that regardless of an individual's age, gender, sexuality, everyone has the right to equal pay when effective the same job. If two people have studied for the same amount of time and both meet the requirements for the position, nothing should be a factor in providing one with the less wage than the other. Overall, we would like to avoid more cases regarding women's pay equity. Companies should provide unions in order to make sure both parties receive wage they are entitled to, and to make sure that the average woman does not earn 26 cents less than men. By Anisa Abdul.